Welcome back to Journey Story Season 6, Episode 2, the only podcast where the interviews are reimagined into illustrations. Now on this episode we have Jordan. I've known Jordan for many years, but where we met was at Nintendo. And what really impressed me was his confidence within himself, but also his vulnerability and his empathy. And you combine that together and you just get this great human being. Now, over the years I've got to see him grow his skills and all that at Nintendo, and then be offered or take meetings with jobs and be okay with saying no to jobs, but also taking a meeting, but then also progressing on further to become working at Nike. So he's worked for two of the biggest brands in the world, and he loves it. And he's also able to sort of peel the layers back from just the corporate side of the brand and see, hey, Nintendo is all about bringing smiles and Nike is about empowering. Now, however you feel about the companies and their background stuff, that's fine, but he's able to pull that apart and it's really, really incredible. So it's been fun to see him grow. He's a great person. We jump into some deep stuff, we jump into light stuff. It's a great all-round conversation. His illustration is based on his love for gaming, and also he talks about this Jeff the Landshark character from Marvel, and so I created him his own little character, Doug the walking dog snake, and it's kind of fun just to sort of do, and with his own character as well. So it's been a wonderful, fun episode. If you're listening on an audio, please jump on YouTube or Instagram and check out the illustration. You can also catch this stuff on merch. Some new merch here that's on TeePublic. And yeah, check it out. Boosh! Yeah, so what's the life been like? Now you're down in Portland.
Man, it has been really good.
Yeah.
It was a much needed change of pace.
Faster or slower?
Faster, for sure. Professionally, personally.
Have you got a nose ring now?
Yeah, I got a nose ring now. Yeah, I got a nose ring, I got a goatee. Are you living like down in like Pearl Street or down in Hawthorne now? No, I don't live where the cool kids live.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now you're just trying to be one though. Like you're like, oh, let me join the party, guys, and give me a nose ring.
Yeah, no, I'm in Beaverton, so I'm in the literally in the suburbs. So
yeah.
No, still being my introverted self. Yeah.
So it's at the work. Oh, we'll get into that stuff as we get into. So I have a couple of questions for that. But do you prefer it down there versus here?
Portland feels like Seattle's little brother, like
in a good way, because you know how sometimes the little brother's the cooler one. You know what I mean? Like, because they've already got to like the first one has done all the work, and the second one comes in and says, I don't give an F. I just live my best life.
Yeah. It depends, right? So a few different topics. One, I would say the food is better, but Seattle also has great food. So I would say Portland food is probably the best thing Portland has going for itself.
From what I've heard and experienced on many bachelor parties, it's the strippers.
I mean, we have I don't know if they have the best. They have the most per capita in the country.
Do they really?
Yeah. Like Portland has the most.
Oh, I had no idea on that.
But as far as like quality, I don't think. I mean, I'm sure you would go to DC or Atlanta.
Maybe. I will say this: the only times I've been to strip club is when I've been very drunk and at a bachelor party, and most people that go down there is for like because they get naked all the way down there.
Oh, okay.
And they're not allowed to do that up here.
Right.
It might have changed. I hadn't been to one more. And the last time I went to a strip club, I was kind of like, I was old enough where I was like, oh man, I was at the end of the night, I was like, I don't want to be in here anymore. I just want to go home. So I've never had a desire since to go to a strip club, I don't think.
Yeah, it's not my bag. So,
yeah.
I mean, I would ask someone else. But to answer your question, I think it's definitely quirkier. You know how like people, or maybe you don't know, but like coming from the East Coast, people are like, oh, Seattle, that's where all the hippies are, you know. And then I feel like Portland's like, hold my beer. Like that's
hold my hemp beer.
Yeah. I think Portland is definitely weirder, quirkier. It feels like a big town instead of a city, more so.
Yeah. I
Uh,
actually love that about it because I've been down there quite a few times. Gillian went to University of Portland,
mhm.
and it felt like every couple of blocks there would be like a mini cool little strip of like shops and like a boutique type thing. And you'd be like, oh, this is a cool little area. And you go a
Yeah,
couple of blocks more and you go, oh, this is a cool little area.
yeah. That's exactly how it is. Yes, it's
Yeah.
like these quaint pockets of things that,
Yeah.
and so and it's cheaper, so that's nice.
Yeah.
But diversity is worse,
Oh, yeah.
and worse in Seattle. So that's also number one. So number one for strippers and number one for white people. It's the whitest city in the country.
Is
But
it really?
hmm
Really? More than like Midwest and stuff like that?
well, I mean, so you have to look at per capita, right? So
Oh,
per
okay.
capita. So of course there's less diverse places that are the small towns or whatever. But Portland is number one. Seattle's not too far away at number five. So
So the question I have for that though
yeah.
um, is is it because it feels like it's very left leaning over here,
hmm
and not saying there's like uh, no racism or anything like that, but is it feels safer for you in a even though it's a place of less diversity because people are a lot more accepting in
Yeah.
of other stuff around here and down there.
It feels the same. Literally, it feels the same.
But I mean, like from other places you've traveled in,
From
like
like
that might have like going to the Midwest or something like that, or that might be a little different.
yeah. So, I mean, depends on. I mean, I've lived a lot of places, but
Yeah.
it depends on what you're really talking about because the overt, racism or scary things, those those don't happen as frequently as much. I mean, it happens all the time, for sure. But maybe if you've never been to the East Coast or the South, a lot of people from the West Coast are scared to go to the South. I'm like, there's no reason to be like, scared like that. But they do happen for sure. But I would say they're on the West Coast or in this area, it's more covert things that happen more frequently. So it's kind of a trade,
Do you
So
think it's a part of it's more um, obliviousness? Do you get what I mean? Like someone might say something to you where you're like, in their mind, they're like, oh, I I said something and I don't even know how to say. Like maybe if someone says, oh, I've been working like a slave today to you, and you're
oh,
like,
right, yeah,
you know
sure,
what I mean? But
yeah,
in their brain, they're like, I'm not putting two and two together. I just like that's a
yeah.
saying that you say.
Yeah. I would say that I think it happens across the map.
Yeah, I know I've done that to you, like
Yeah.
and said that by accident. And the next for like a year straight, I was like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah, I would say it happens more across the map. Nothing that I've noticed in my life. Of course, everybody has their own experiences, but
yeah,
one example goes to one of my good friends and people who I consider mentors at the time. They're like they saw my brush for the first time, like that I used for my
oh
hair,
yeah,
and then they're like they never seen a brush that like a black person would use, and so they're like, oh, this looks like a brush for like a horse or something. I'm like,
oh
what? Are you, and they
yeah,
have no idea how that came,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
so.
But
Um,
that's still not like that. Like, if people tease Australia about stuff they don't know, like they tease Vegemite tasting like ass wipes. Like, I'm like,
I remember when we first had that, I was like, "Oh man, this."
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So, like, if
yeah,
people
yeah,
don't know, like, you know what I mean? There's an obliviousness to
yeah.
that stuff. Like, if I don't know, I don't know.
Right,
Like,
right, yeah, hundred
yeah.
percent, yeah. So I think there's obliviousness. Um, I think there's a difference between like people being nice and versus kind. That's a huge thing.
That's interesting.
That's
That's a
on the
good.
East Coast versus the West Coast. So on the West Coast, I'd say people are nice, but they're not kind, or not overall, as kind. But on the East Coast, people are kind but not nice. And so
Mm.
people don't really understand the difference
Well,
between.
can you for people on here? Can you explain that difference?
Yeah, so I would say nice addresses the feeling, whereas kind addresses an action that needs to be taken. So
Okay.
for example, on the West Coast, someone might drive by, you might drive by someone with a flat tire and you're like, oh man, that sucks, that poor thing, and then you keep on going.
Hmm.
Right, and that you truly, your heart goes out to them, and you might even say something, to them like, hey, like, But best of luck, right? That was nice of you. Um, in, let's say, New York, someone might, they'll get out and help you, but they'll probably cuss you out then, like, how you don't have AAA, you idiot, like, and just like are you dumb? And so that was a nice thing because you're tearing them a new one, but you're addressing the need and you're helping them get through something, right? So
Okay.
and they might help you up the stairs with your stuff, or they might, but they're not gonna be chummy buddy buddy, or just have all these niceties, so
Yeah.
kindness addresses an action.
What about the South? Like, because you lived in Atlanta, right?
I live in Oklahoma and Texas.
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
sorry.
They're a blend of both. I would say they're both kind and nice.
Okay. Because every time I've been down, like when I was in Fayetteville, in Arkansas, even though I didn't go outside of the northwest of that little area, and everyone was like super nice, like
Yeah.
like I feel like I could have tripped over and someone's going to bandage my leg for me, carry me home,
100%.
kiss my boo boo,
Yeah.
put me to bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. I would say my experience in the South is they're both, and not to be so political, but on the like political spectrum, right? Very
Yeah.
red leaning, not even leaning, just red. And so in my neighborhood, my mom's neighborhood, she was like the only black person in the neighborhood, and they're all very much, Trump supporters, et cetera, everything, right? And then in certain races, in some degrees of whatever, right? But they're very much more community focused. So
Yeah. Okay.
if someone showed up at my mom's house and they know they didn't belong there, they would probably shoot them and kill them.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah,
'cause it's
yeah.
like, that's my neighbor.
Yeah.
So it's not about, they see race and stuff as like, oh, like this is something else, like politics or something, like, but they know the person. They focus on the interpersonal
Ah.
relationships. So it's this nuanced web.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
very nice, very kind, and then that's just another thing.
yeah.
So,
I see that. That reminds me of like when I've watched old movies and stuff like that, and then uh, it's been like, oh, he's my black friend. Don't worry, he's one of the good ones. And when I was younger, I didn't understand it, like until I moved here, and then I was like, oh, that's saying like this person's the exception. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
none
yeah.
other ones can be like this. And I was like, oh, whoa, hang on, I didn't get that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of times, even what I'm describing, it's not even that. It's more like it's just they're two entirely different concepts. So they might be very much like something can happen in real life, where it's like, oh man, this poor young kid, and maybe he's my age, and he's maybe shot and killed or something, and then they're totally on the wrong side of history on the topic. But
Yeah.
then when then my mom might say, well, that could have been Jordan, and then like that kind of pauses them
Oh,
for a second. So they're
clicks
not
for
even
them.
as an exception. Is just like, no, that's just race and politics. Like but you're still my friend. You're still, you know what I mean? So it's just,
Yeah.
it's really kind of,
That's really that must be sort of hard for your mum to navigate a bit down there.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough because, like you said, they're really genuinely like good people in their hearts, and they would take the shirt off their backs, for you. But then, it's not, but it's like, and they're also,
And yeah.
right. So that's kind of how the South can be for sure. Yeah. So, but you will know where you stand. That is also one thing. Where it's like going back to the covert and overt,
Yeah.
right? If someone is racist, they don't like you, you will know. There's no guessing about it. Whereas in the Pacific Northwest, more so, they're nice, so they're not gonna say that. They're gonna do it with their actions behind the scenes, which is more sinister and some more scary in some degrees.
Yeah.
Right? Because that can come out from hiring, and that can come out and play in all other kind of ways. Whereas it's like, okay, well, nope, just don't go to that part of town. And then you never need to think about it even more than that, right? Instead of maybe second guessing the interactions that you have with people.
Yeah. I feel like, and this could be me being oblivious, and we're getting straight into heavy stuff.
Yeah, I know. I know. We're like, how are you?
Yeah. How are you? Bang! Right in, knee deep. So, I do sometimes think of like the weight of, like, maybe, like the conversations you'll have of like the Pacific Northwest doing stuff behind your back and that, like you have worked at pretty prestigious places and your economics is higher up than when I was, like when I first met you, I think you were 26, I think.
Not even, probably like 23. Yeah.
23, right?
Yeah.
So when I was 23, my economics were like way low down below you, right?
I don't know.
So, oh no, I can guarantee it. I can guarantee it. I was working in a skate shop that was like, minimum wage skate shop, not doing anything. But my point is that I wonder if that sort of back stuff happening has less, like, there's people feel less dangerous about that because it's not as much physical, but it like could be like, hey, that's affecting my career, that's affecting that. But then when you talk about like, hey, if I went into that part of town in Southwest Arkansas or whatever like that, I could physically get hurt, or I could.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean. So like, the change of people's perspective. You're not going to get hurt as much, or.
Yeah, I can give you a personal example. There was a point in time where, when I was at my last company, I was entertaining another offer, and it was in Arkansas, and only reason I was entertaining it because I was like, there's no way. So I asked for a whole bunch of money because I was like, there's no way they're going to give that in that market, different things, and they did. And I was like, oh, shoot. And it was only a 90-minute drive from my family in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So, my mom's business and everything. I was like, all right, well, I was just joking around before, but I should actually consider this. And they seemed like it was a great team and a good opportunity. And so I went down there to seriously look at it. And while that part of Arkansas was more progressive, one of the major reasons why I declined was because it was less. I did not feel safe. So there's the physical safety and then there's the psychological safety. I think that's kind of what you're like touching on, right?
Yeah.
I declined it because I was like, during this 48 hours I've been here, I'm the only person that I see that looks like me. Combined with, okay, if I picked here to live, I wouldn't even need to drive. I could just walk to work, But I'm like, I don't feel safe walking in this area at night with no street lights on, and I'm the only person who looks like me, right? And so all of those type of decisions, or I'm thinking about, I have a red Tesla, and then I'm driving that 90-minute road, or whatever, flashy car, again, look like me, and these, that stress wasn't worth it, so I did,
That's wild, because I even talk about that with my wife, and like how I don't have to think about whether something's really dangerous. Like white, male, I'm pretty tall.
Yeah.
I 6'1", like give me a little bit. Just because you got like what, you're 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, 6'3", yeah. No.
Yeah, come on, 2 inches. I make up for that elsewhere if you want. No, I don't make up for that anywhere. But I don't have to worry about anything. Like I don't think about like, oh, I'm going to walk down this dark part of the neighborhood and something's going to happen to me. Now, the likely Jillian has been jogging down the street here in the middle of the afternoon, and someone slowed their car down and took a video of her. This is years and years ago.
Oh wow. And
I was like, what color was the car? Let me get in the car and go and find them. And like, but like, there's nothing you can do, right? Like in that situation. Yeah. But that shook her, and she's like, that's the stuff that like girls have to think about all the time. Can't run with headphones. I can't like, when I leave my my art teaching gig at night, it's really dark down this trail part. And these little lights flash on the side, and I'll be walking with my head in my phone, just looking at like Instagram or something like that. Light flashing, I don't even think about it. The other day there was a person walking right by me. The light flashes on their feet, and I go, oh, and keep walking. I didn't even look up to see if there was their face. Do they have a nut? My brain just doesn't go. Oh, I don't need to bother about that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a bit of an idiot as well, because I'm not really looking up anyway.
Yeah, it's no awareness. No, I mean, but like, it's
I would say I'm usually. It's saying that I do have a fight or flight where I'm like, from growing up the way I did, where I'll sit in a restaurant. I used to do it be way worse, and I would sit and I would count everybody in the restaurant, and like I'm some sort of spy or something like that. Like anything's gonna matter. Like when I count everyone. But it was like my brain had to feel safe, and I'd be like, all right, okay, good.
Yeah.
But now, as I've gotten on, maybe living in Kirkland softened me.
I mean, that happens too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens too. Yeah.
Anyway, back to Portland. The food, not so much the strippers. We'll get into questions, but when you were first up here, I feel like you're really good about making a community of friends. And like, so you've got your friends from back home. You've got that. How was Portland for making friends? Did you get the Seattle Freeze, or do they have the Portland Poultry, or whatever they call it there?
Oh, yeah, I don't know I do think that people are actually friendlier here a bit, because I think Seattle, they have more of the Seattle Freeze because of all of the transit, and because you have all the biggest companies in the world.
People coming in and
people are coming in and out all the time, right? And so it was almost rare to meet someone who was born and raised in Seattle because of all the opportunity that the city affords. Whereas Portland, I've met a lot more people that are native here, and so in that I've seen that translate to being more welcoming or going out of their way to make sure that you feel included, which is awesome. I will say, I think just maybe with aging, or maybe I'm just not cool anymore, but I don't have as many I've only been here a year and a half, but I would say my circle is 100% smaller in the trajectory. I think
that's just being older.
Yeah, I don't see it growing as rapidly. Yeah, not even rapidly, but just as much as it did when I was in Seattle. But I've found some really good people that I feel solid with, and so of course, I'm always open to make connections. That's just who I am. But if I didn't get another friend, I'd be okay.
You'd be all right. Well, you got Chippy, and
I know I always got Chippy.
You've always got your soulmate Chippy that you can just go. Bing, bing, and he gets a receiver, doesn't he? He just gets.
He does. It's a little signal that goes off, and
I checked on him when the fires were on to make sure he was safe.
I'm glad they're safe.
He's
just a short flight away.
Yeah, good dude. We'll get into that in a second. But all right, let's jump into some questions. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I changed this layout now. I feel better. I can look at you and the camera kind of at the same time.
You know what? I struggle because I want to see what you're doing, but the camera's up here, and so I'm trying to converse with you. So I wish there was a way where it'd be the camera was here.
Yeah. See, I just got rid of me completely. So I'm because I'm so vain. I'm just looking at myself instead of looking at you. And then
can I do that?
Yeah, if you hit layout and then if you hit speaker, then you can just see the other person.
Oh, hang on. I didn't know where that is.
Sorry.
Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
All right. So we have Jordan here, and he's had an immaculate life. We've been chatting for a second, but this guy's a bloody legend. I've known him for maybe 10 years now?
Almost, yeah. It'll be 9 years, yeah.
Far out.
Yeah.
Wild. And we met at a really fun company. We'll talk about that in a second. I'll lift you on a killer tanga, people. And let's jump into some questions. Early bird or night owl?
Definitely early bird. I'm not an early bird, but I cannot stay up late.
Yeah. This question, I wrote this question for the whole season, and when I knew I was interviewing, I was like, how's he going to answer this? Because you just love sleep.
Yeah. I'm in college, I never did all-nighters. I would rather wake up at 4 a.m. and then do that assignment than stay up and try to just crank through it, because my brain just literally shuts down and I get irritated, and so I'm just no, I just have to sleep. No. So I don't prefer being just up early. I'm not this natural riser where people
not that happy person in the morning. Yeah. I just did a 5-mile walk and it's only 5:30 a.m.
No, that's not me at all.
Yeah.
But
they're too happy.
Yeah, no. So if you strip away the cheer, I'm definitely an early bird compared to
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, night owl all day.
That makes sense. Yeah.
My perfect work scenario of just life is if I could stay up until 2 a.m. and then I could get a good night's sleep until 10, and then start my work day at 11. Work, and then hang out with the kids, then do something, and then work again, and hang out with the family in between all that. That would be my perfect scenario. Like
Okay.
I feel like there'll be sometimes at 11 at night I'm like, I should draw something. I should do something. I'm like, nope, I got to go to bed, pump myself full of melatonin and go, you know.
Does the melatonin give you bad dreams?
Do you know what has been? So I don't know if you can tell, but I've been working out a little bit.
Okay, I see the jawline.
Yeah, see? That's not this anymore. It's so yeah, there's less than one. There's only one chin these days.
There's only one chin.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I got rid of the other 2 or 7.
Yeah,
And so I've been working out. So I've got this a previous guest here is my personal trainer Jesse, and he has just the way he talks about personal training and stuff like that. It works for me, and it's incredible. So I've been going to him. I'm feeling stronger. I'm feeling fitter. I've slimmed down. I still have to take melatonin, but ever since I started working out really well, like my sleep has got better. Like I'm not waking up during the night. I'm not as much. Obviously, having kids and stuff, there's someone wakes you up and does something. But anyway, I found that I've started dreaming again. But my dreams have gotten like sort of like they're like real wild and then like real like weird, like simply weird. Where the other night I had a dream because I've been playing a ton of pickleball.
Yeah.
I had a dream where they said you can have all the free pickleball paddles you want, and there's this massive bucket, like this one of those mail carts that you see roll around with all mail in it.
Oh yeah, it's like a wheelbarrow kind of thing.
Yeah, and wheeled that to me, and I go, oh, but they were all broken, and that I was like, oh, God. And so I was going through all of them trying to find them broken. That's the type of dream that like I sort of had. Then I've got all wild other ones. I just can't remember them. What about you? Does melatonin give you the?
It's, not consistently, but I don't take it that often. But sometimes you just need it. And I would say about maybe 30% of the time I might get a not necessarily a night terror, but
Oh, you get a night like a
no,
nightmare.
Just an unpleasant dream, whatever that looks like. So,
what would an unpleasant dream to you look like? I feel like this is it. Let me paint the scenario. Hi, I'm Jordan, and you're playing what's it, Melee?
Melee.
Melee, the fighting one, or what was the other one you played? Street Fighter?
Street Fighter, yeah.
Street Fighter you're playing, and then your dream is that like that little joystick is sticking to the right. And you're like, no, my stick is sticking to the right.
Yeah,
that's what I imagine.
It's been, I would say, probably more like relationship based, as in like I'm arguing with someone or.
Oh
like,
wow, that's way too heavy. I thought yours would be like more chill.
No, not at all. No, it's like, or sometimes I might die in the dream, like just like crazy. Yeah.
You've died in your dream?
I don't know if I died, but I've had like these moments where it resets. I used to have this. This is unrelated to melatonin, but I used to have this like recurring Scooby Doo dream. I know exaggeration. And they would go on the mission, right, to go find the ghost or whatever. So there's this big mansion, and me and one of the gang were like, we would always like just try. The monsters were chasing us, and we would hide, and then the monster would always find me. Then it would just kind of cut the black, and then I would wake up.
Are you the only black person in this scary Halloween dream? Because maybe you've watched too many.
Well, yeah, there's no one.
Yeah, were you the first one to go?
I don't know. I'm just through my lens. I don't know what's happening.
You don't know what's happening for the Fair enough. I'm just saying you might have watched too many '90s horror movies. I know. So.
But I've had that dream like multiple times.
Oh, I've had one recurring dream ever. I'm scared to tell this only because it's like it's so stupid, but it's so like there's almost like a part of me that kind of like would wish it had happened, but now it's not going to happen. But I'll still tell it because that's so unrealistic that it would happen. But I'll tell you that I was hanging out at Jay-Z and Beyonce's house. Right, we're already unrealistic, but yeah, let's go. And there, Jay-Z and a bunch of people have to go do something, so they leave, and I'm like finishing up something and whatever, and I'm like, all right, see you later, like as if I'm like sort of friends with them of some sort, like or like I know them just a little bit past acquaintance. So maybe I'm packing up. I don't know what it is, but I'm walking down to the gates because my Uber's out the front or something like that. Beyonce comes out to me and she grabs my hand and she goes, hey, can you stay for a little bit? And I go, oh, I would love to, but and I could just got this vibe, like, and I go, I would love to, but she goes, oh, don't worry, he's gay. And I was like, okay. And so that I went back to that, but I have no. That dream ends there, always ends there. So I have no idea. But this is before Diddy stuff, all that stuff.
Yeah.
No, there's no reason behind any of this. Like,
that's so interesting.
But it's like it's happened. Like I would say, like 20, 30 times over the last.
That many.
Yeah, it's happened a bunch. Like,
wow.
It hasn't happened in the last year or so, I'd say. But
maybe you have some I don't know, some subconscious aspirations that you're trying to reach.
For me and Beyonce, or doesn't everybody? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I always found Kelly Rowland the better looking one out of those three, though.
100%.
Yeah, wait.
Hands down.
She's beautiful. Anyway, all right. What do you do to pay the bills?
What do I do to pay the bills? So I work for one of the largest, or the largest, sports companies, in the world. And
who would that be?
Yeah, Nike. But yeah, so it's cool. I'm basically the global director of market research, or quantitative research. So all survey market research comes through my team's purview.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that? Can we break that down for people? Because you just said massive words, and I'm an idiot. I'm sure people that listen to this are not idiots. So, who's making, where on you on this list? So if I get an email that says, hey, will you take this quick survey for us for Nike?
Mm-hmm.
Have you set that tone? We need to find out this information. As another same team said, hey, we need to find out this information. And you're like, well, this is how you need to do it? Or?
The latter.
The latter, okay.
So, yeah, my team, we're pretty lean. And so we're not the ones, in the most cases, executing the research. But we provide the strategic oversight. And we're like the hub to make sure that everyone that does it throughout the enterprise is doing it the Nike way. And my team defines what that way is.
Yeah.
We're a lot of the methodological expertise. We crowdsource all the best practices and standards. And
is there a Nike way of asking questions?
There is, yeah. I can't disclose any of those kind of things.
Yeah, of course. You can't disclose that. So, of course, I wouldn't do that. The question I was going to ask is, when you started this job, did they already have that tone set and you had to learn it? Or, as you're growing, are you helping define this tone of questions that's coming through, and that's part of your job?
So this was totally something new. I did not get hired for this work at all.
Oh, okay. What did you get hired for?
I was director of capabilities, research capabilities. So I was more so I oversaw the vendor and product portfolio for a few different survey and research programs.
Yeah.
So, but then there was a project that I was working on the side, and that project became my full-time job. So. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's classic you though, right?
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
So, if we step back a little bit,
mm-hmm.
So where we met was Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
What job were you doing there?
I was the voice of the consumer.
Voice of the consumer, and can you tell people what that role would be at Nintendo?
Yeah, so basically making sure that the consumer has a seat at the table behind the scenes at all times. At the end of the day, the business is going to make their decisions of what they want to do.
Yeah.
It was my job to bring data to that decision, right? Because especially when you have a legacy company like Nintendo or Nike or long-standing inspirational brands, they're making decisions a lot, not solely, but strongly is from their gut, right?
Yeah.
But it's important to bring data to those moments to make sure that we're not just selling to consumers, but we're doing what's actually best for them. And so being the voice of the consumer is to be that advocate and champion, no matter what.
So where, on these companies, how often do you feel like the voice of the consumer actually gets to play a role in what the consumer versus what the business needs meet up with?
It's tough. It's tough.
It's tough, right?
It's very tough. Because it just depends on the company.
Yeah.
Companies like these is the most tough. Um, so it's an unpopular opinion, but throughout my growth within this space, I've learned that sometimes the best you can do is to have them be data informed
Yeah.
rather than data driven. Like data driven is the goal majority of the times because you're just making the decision, but with the data. But sometimes it's still a win. Sometimes you can at least get them to consult in the data, right? And even if they
Yeah.
say, you know what, I know what this says, but I'm still going to go this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But at least you can either say, well, I told you so if it didn't play out, or, you know, it might pay off on the other side of like, oh, dang, okay, well, maybe they tweak their decision just a little bit to be
Just a
more
little bit.
sensitive, right? But then other companies, they're like, no, data says this, and we just go this way. And I think that's great. But I think there's a balance that you have to strike when you work for brands that are work with so much emotional equity. Everyone has emotional equity in what this brand is supposed to be for the consumer. So you have to understand what are their goals are and how do you influence them. Because to be the voice of the consumer is to know them the best, but you have the least authority to do something about it. So you really have to influence.
So I do wonder, is that being the voice of the consumer, or like the taking these surveys and stuff like that, there's very few instances where it's instant gratification, where you go, bang, we made this change and the consumer loved it, all this. Like, you're not getting that. Like, how long is usually the goal set for that? Let's say they do listen to the voice of consumer. We need this page on this website so that everyone can hear and read and see all this information and people are loving it,
Yeah.
to you seeing the goal or like the enough change to be able to say, hey people, this actually worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it goes back to actually, I'll take a step back and then I'll kind of zoom back in.
Yep.
I would say historically, maybe when we've worked together, VOC meant surveys, but that's just truly one slice out of it.
Yeah.
There's surveys, there's social media, there's phone calls, there's emails, there's literally any type of text that is sent back and forth between consumers, communities, or customers. Like that's all voice of the consumer data.
Yeah.
We just happen to look at that one,
Yeah.
view, right? So drilling back in, when do you actually see change happen? It depends on how fast these companies act on it, right? So I can give you this insight tomorrow that, hey, they didn't like that. Like you should do something about this. But change management is hard,
Yeah.
and it's harder depending on where you go. So if you don't do anything about it till months later, then okay, well maybe the tone has changed or we missed the boat now. It's too
Yeah.
late. So it really depends on how fast they're acting on it.
Wow. So is your team, like the current team you have now, monitoring all those communications? Like where you're like, hey, our social media is doing this, but our emails are doing that. And I'm sure with Nike, there's multiple emails of like different tones, because you're sending it to me that someone's 43 is getting a different tone that someone's like 23 buying a sneakerhead shoe.
Sure.
Like, how do you like, how like when they say, oh, start a business and like narrow it down to one person, Nike has the opposite problem where they've just got like confetti raining out in the rain and it's just sticking to everything. Around everywhere.
Yeah.
And so how do you say we're going to make everyone happy or be the voice of the consumer, or lead that when you have so many people like in so many different opinions, personalities, cultures, subcultures, like all that to sort of entertain?
Yeah. I mean, I think many brands, you like you said, you can't be everything to everybody, even though it is a growing pain and unique challenge of big brands where it's like, okay, well, how do you truly serve everyone? But I mean, the reality is you just have to prioritize who you talk to, and how you talk to them and where can you find the most growth. So you have to do no harm for everyone, but then you have to overserve
Yeah.
where you're losing.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that the? I don't know if you ever remember, like, if they ever talked about this or if you know anything about it. Nike brought out a shoe called Savior many, many years ago, like back in the 90s.
Mhm.
You're probably like half knee. You weren't even born, probably.
No, I haven't heard of it.
So basically, they brought it out to be in the skate industry, right?
Mhm.
To like be a new shoe that goes in it. And from my understanding, and when it came through the skate shop, we all were like, "Oh, what's this?" But then Nike brought out Nike SB after a while, and they had P Rod be their golden child to bring that to fruition, and everyone started loving that one because they wanted the Nike style of shoe, but
Mhm.
also they started really investing in the skate community. So like a lot of the pro skateboarders that are on Nike have like health contract, or like they get like, oh hey, you hurt your knee, we're gonna have someone come over and look at that knee, we're gonna have this and that, and like help the skateboarders out. And then the skateboarding community would hear this and be like, oh great, our favorite skateboarder is hucking themselves down this 12 stair. They might hurt themselves, but they're being looked after by um, their companies, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
And I think that set the tone for a lot of companies to start doing that. Skateboard brands can't do that because it's not as um, fruitful as what like Nike is. Like, it's got so many things to hit.
Hmm.
But that was that that part there made me think. I wonder who set the tone to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of teams and a lot of places that do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I haven't had full exposure, and I'm only speaking on behalf of me.
Yeah. I was just like, it's just interesting that would
But
happen.
yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people, a lot of places to, that are truly holistically looking at, how to just better serve people, because
So
there's so many different areas.
I know there's people going to ask these, want me to ask these questions. Who's the most famous athlete that you or anyone that you've seen or met through Nike? Is there anyone?
Uh, hmm. I would say, that's an interesting question.
I
Well,
bet
okay,
you've walked past like pro skateboarders and you didn't even care, but I would have been like pissing my pants.
okay, I guess I have a two-part answer. Um, I've seen Kevin Durant, NBA.
Did he make you look short?
I saw him from afar, but I'm sure. Yeah.
So you're like, oh, we're about the same height. We're fine.
Yeah. He was on the hill. I've seen him from afar. I've seen Ray Allen from afar, and I've seen Sonia Richards on stage. But all those people from afar, I haven't met them. I would say the most. So those are probably the most famous people that I've seen, but the most influential person that I've met was H. His name is H. Howard White. He's who discovered Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he still works at Nike, and so I spent like 90 minutes with him just in his office, just chatting it up, and
No way.
yeah. So he's. I don't know a lot of people maybe not know who he is, but
Yeah.
that's
Well, I think after the
Air.
air. Yeah.
Yeah. So So I spent a good time with him. He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he a good dude still? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Chris Rod did a great job. I feel he's very similar.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he kind of just felt like I was just talking to an uncle in my life,
Oh
but,
wow. That's cool.
just very, very introspective, very selfless. I came to learn about him and his life and legacy and the, maybe 40 plus years that he's been at Nike.
Yeah.
And he spent the majority of the time talking about me and reacting to my life. So I didn't even accomplish my goal. So,
Is it hard to find time for you to find? Sorry, let me do that again. Is it hard for you to get people that you admire in that workspace, and then hey, I would really love to pick your brain, and they're like, so would 87,000 other people at this company. I'm sorry, I don't have time. Is that hard?
No.
People are just like,
not for me, at least.
Of course not for you.
But I don't mean it like that. I think because people go into those experiences, not even before they even go into it, before they even contemplate that experience, they already discount themselves because they're like, oh, the president or whomever, they're just so busy. There's just no way that they'll make time for little old me. I'm like, you don't know that. Like, ask.
Wow.
And I also don't ask for permission. And I think that is, my first job out of college was I worked at a small startup, and so the VPs and the president and the CEO and the founder, like everybody just around in offices. I think that kind of put me exposed me to a different way of thinking about stuff, like getting rid of the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And then going to Nintendo, same thing. I talked to everybody. I don't care who you were, the president or
Yeah.
whatever. Just
Yeah, I was sort of the same way, but I never tried to make a meeting or anything with anyone.
yeah. And so at the end of the day, yeah, they're busy. They're very busy. And the worst thing they can say is no. So what I done, what I continue to do whenever I see someone of interest, I'm like, hey, I just shoot them an email, and I'm like, hey, I saw you in this moment, and here's a brief thing of who I am. Like, I'm a new leader at Nike. I would love to connect with you if you have a moment, just to whatever, right? I wordsmith it better than that, but it's
Yeah.
literally just 3 to 4 lines max, and I get straight to the point. And they answer or they don't. And 95% of the time they answer, and they're like, I would love to connect. Just bear with me on my schedule. So
That's
sure,
amazing.
maybe maybe I can't connect with them for another 2 months, but I reach out to their assistant gets me on the books, and that's it.
That's amazing.
Right. So I just think it just takes, but other people didn't have my experience, so I understand that around, like, they're scared, like, oh, you can't reach out, like, what, you talk to who? Like, people are always like befuddled whenever I tell them who I connected with. I'm like, yeah, just
Yeah.
ask them.
In the Nintendo world, like, so I would see you in the Nintendo world, you're always trying like little side projects to like not just better yourself, but like, hey, I think this would help the company, but I'm going to put time aside, or I'm going to make this happen in my time and space. Maybe not outside of work. It's a little bit different because you don't have kids and that flexibility of time and everything like that. And as even after I left, I saw that success. Like, you had the stuff that was reaching out. Um, you had what was the community that you had there? Didn't
I
you
don't know.
you were Chippy, and there was Ducky. What's his name?
Oh, band,
Yeah, band.
like employee, yeah, group.
So you guys had band, but then you also that led on to you then helping hire and like go out and reach out to people of color, like to go and help recruit them or find people in there.
Mhm.
So you've done all these things to sort of grow in there, and you've done that at Nike, of like going, hey, this is a side project I worked on that turned into my full time gig. How do you justify the time of your own time, or like how do you not justify is not the right word. How do you find what is a priority of your own time
Mhm.
to say we need this? And it seems like that stuff that you've been doing on the side has really helped elevate you up in a lot of spaces. Like, people see you doing that extra work. One, how do you show people that you're doing this extra work, and how do you, in your mind, say this is worth doing that extra work,
Yeah.
whether it takes off or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that before I even put pen to paper or put any action towards whatever it may be, I have an understanding that it's bigger than me. So that's like green flag number one before I get to doing anything, because I'm like, before I came here, I'm just picky about what companies I work for.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, sure, I could have go work for that bank, or I could go work for this. But if it doesn't move me internally, I think that working for Nike, Nintendo, like those brands, those logos carry a lot of weight.
Lot
And
of weight.
people don't have no offense, they don't have the Amazon or Microsoft logo tatted on their bodies, right? Like, people, so
Yeah.
there's a promise that our brands have to fulfill or should fulfill. And so, I think give anything less than that is to sacrifice the gift, so to speak, right? It's like I find that I'm moved by competition, creativity, and mediocrity. Like, and that mediocrity one's a weird one, but that comes in with work actually, because I'm like, we work for Nintendo, we work for whoever. I'm like, your good is not good enough.
Yeah.
And so that fulfills a lot, so it's like, is the opportunity bigger than me and the people that it was going to reach? How does it align with what my own interests are and how I can uniquely add value to it? And then the last piece is doing the work, just because I know that the world that I want to see, whether it's personally, professionally, with DAI or with whatever experiences that I think the world should have, it's not going to happen on accident.
Yeah.
So I just do it.
Yeah.
Like, not to be corny, but
from my understanding, especially the way Nintendo worked, like, I feel like Nintendo had quite a few different cultures in there. I think being a Japanese company, it had like quite a few there. Do you feel like I don't feel like you were a DEI hire, but how do you feel about that?
No,
I didn't feel that at all. Even though they did sit you right next to Chippy or Chioki, who is black as well. But I feel like they just must have known that you guys were just going to be like soulmates, and then just like the stars aligned for that to happen.
No, and it is. I think that even that term is just like so loaded, and it's just like,
I wouldn't have brought it up, but I didn't. You just mentioned it in the.
Oh yeah. No, like it's really just about like, okay, this has to, you have to do something, because you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results, right? So I think it's just about being intentional about how you show up and being the brand or the person or the leader that you want to see. And so it's not going to just, we've seen doing it the traditional way, it doesn't work. So.
I agree. The one thing that hit me, just a second, and we'll jump on to some other questions. You saying that these brands are so big that you should be stoked, and you're like doing people outside of this like a service because they love these brands so much. I think that I missed that piece when I was at Nintendo. Like, I loved working there, I loved that, but I didn't have that sort of like, and don't get me wrong, I see it as a huge brand. I didn't have that part where I was like, oh my gosh, like there's this piece where if this company went away, we've lost something. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I feel like that's a good point that you bring up. And I would always say that I had someone else's dream job, like when I was there, because I really felt like I loved the job. I loved for 90% of the people. And it was like that, but I was like, I need to do something else personally.
Yeah.
But that little piece that you had there, I think that makes a big difference. And then you being picky about where you work, and not picky is not the right word. I think that sounds too pretentious. It's like finding a place that you really love to work, so then you can put that passion into it.
Yeah. That's a great way. That's a great way of saying it. Yeah. And I totally get. I don't think that everyone has to feel the way I feel about it. No. That's just my perspective on it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, you want to go do that? Then go work somewhere else. Like that's how it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
I would never say that to anybody or force my views on it. But I truly did think that, and to do anything less than that was betrayal to the consumer.
Yeah.
And because people, especially by being voice of the consumer, like I rarely shared it, but like people used to write me hand letters because I used to get stuff, because sometimes instead of going to customer service, they would get routed to me. So like kids used to like, hello Jordan, in their 5-year-old handwriting telling me about whatever, because their parent probably found me on LinkedIn and thought that I could do something about whatever the things were. So I'm like, I had a different perspective because of that as well. Like there's where I'm like, yo, I still have some of the letters, from some of the kids.
That's so cool.
And I would surface it up, to our leadership and different things, just because that's just awesome. Even if it was within our purview to do something about it or not. But I think that, one of my, good friends and mentors there, I remember I was working on something and I was asking for some help with one particular task, and then they were like, yeah, like it's fine. But then they asked me where the smile was, and I knew immediately what they meant, because Nintendo is about, sure, people think of them as a video game company, but they're selling smiles. Like that is the whole reason why they exist. Nike, we're selling inspiration. And so that person in that moment asking me where the smile was, just because it was a survey, that doesn't mean that I can't make someone smile. And so I redid my whole thing because I was like, I can make someone smile even while they're taking a boring survey. I can do that, using this IP in this moment. And so that was a really like pivotal moment for me to rethink how even my boring little survey can to change someone's day.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Okay, let's jump into. Oh, sorry. What did you do at school to get into all this? So that way people who do listen to this be like, whoa, how do I take this path? Because me, idiot, didn't really go to school, just like worked outside trying to get everything done to become a designer and all that sort of stuff. You obviously went to school and have a person, even though your face doesn't show up right this moment, you have a great personality where you can charm the shit off anyone. I feel like I'm half naked now, but that's because I know you. So, what did you do in school that got you through to this stuff?
It wasn't a linear path. Growth never is.
No.
But I went to school for engineering, actually.
Oh, wow.
So ever since I was a third grader, I was like, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be a computer engineer at that. And so I went to Virginia Tech. Got in for engineering.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Not Atlanta, I was thinking Virginia. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, yeah. So, got in. Virginia Tech is the best engineering school in the state of Virginia. The biggest school as well. So, like, great reputation, all the things. And I was getting my ass kicked in math for the first time, Like, I was a straight A math student, and it was getting a D, Like, I was, failing science, and I was, it was like, whoa, like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And in your freshman year at Virginia Tech, you're not allowed to make a major declaration just yet, because they know that you don't know what you're talking about. You can say you want to be a computer engineer your whole life, but you don't even really know what that means.
Yeah.
Right. And so you spend your first semester learning about all the different kind of topics at a very high level, and then the second semester you'll declare what you actually want to do. And so you take a brand new experience, you take, like freshman year, living on the dorms, all the things. And then I had this book, and I don't remember what the book was about, but I remember they go over this one specific use case, and I just fell in love with it. And it was about a hotel who they had really bad reviews and complaints from the residents or the hotel around their elevators being really, really slow. And so what this, I forget the name of the major now, but it'll ladder back up to it. But basically this engineer, and we call it industrial systems engineering, was what it was called. And so this industrial systems engineer, instead of fixing the elevator, he installed mirrors on every floor. And immediately complaints went away, and because they understood the psychology that people are vain, and so the perceived time of waiting for an elevator would decrease significantly, and then they could fix the elevators later.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like blown away by that, because it's like you're combining like human principles and understanding of them with business and designing a solution. And from there, that's how I discovered sociology. And because I understand how people interact with things and had the understanding of people. And so I changed my major, but I'm still living in an engineering dorm, and I'm getting a whole lot of shit from people, and just like, oh, what are you gonna do with that degree? Even back in some of my mentors who had sociology degrees, they're like urging me against it, like, please, Jordan, like I did this, like, don't get a sociology degree, like, what are you gonna do, teach or become a law enforcement or social worker? They were just concerned about my future, or just being assholes, because you know, they're just like, oh, you have a degree in PE, like of course you
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
degrees, right? And so
Like communications, that sort of one, you know.
yeah, so they're kind of just being really dismissive, and so I mean, we known each other 9 years. I don't carry a chip on my shoulder, but I definitely had one at that point in my life, you know,
Yeah.
because of that perspective. And so I went on, and come fast forward to senior year, when it's time to look for careers. I basically marketed myself on paper on my resume as a statistics major because I took statistics courses. And I'm like, well, just because I'm a sociology major doesn't mean that I'm not good at math anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I had a early understanding of how to market yourself. And so I went to the career fair, my whole entire resume. Yes, I didn't lie. I didn't say statistics. I just had sociology, but all the projects and experience were all project stat based and analysis based. And so then I walked up to the company that I wanted to work for, and then the guy's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, sorry, man, I don't know if I can help you." And he's like the 6'5", 270-pound dude is like, "I don't know if I can help you." And I'm 6'3", 160 or whatever. And I don't remember what I said, but I basically professionally cussed him out. And I was like, "You don't know who I am. You can't tell me that, blah, 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 blah." And then I got an interview, and fast forward later, I got the job. And that was my first
Wow.
job out of school. And so to bring that all to a close is really about like, don't ever let anyone tell your story, because they don't know you.
Don't
And
let anyone ever tell your story.
so,
I've never heard you say that, but that is great.
no, I appreciate it, man. But yeah, that's really what happened, because I just knew how to, like I said, market myself. And fast
Yeah.
forward to today, I'm in love with like marketing. Like that's how I applied myself here at Nike to my mom's business. Like I think that
Yep.
is really what I'm, dare I say, passionate about.
Yeah. I just need you to market my podcast, so then this thing can take off. So if you
There
could
we
just
go.
do that on your
My next project, I got you.
yeah, just do it. And I don't really want to do any extra work, so if you can do it all.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
All right, let's jump into some other questions. What's your favorite mythical creature?
I don't think I have one, because I can't even I can't even think of anything other than the dragon. Dragons are cool, but I feel like that's a basic answer. But I'm gonna
You're
say
pretty
dragon.
basic. So.
But I can't think of another mythical creature. I don't know. Like I don't know. Like
You
the
know what?
200. Like I don't know. But like
Yeah, this question, some people love it because they're like, oh, I love that sort of like Harry Potter, like
I don't play in that land.
yeah,
That's why I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I don't play over there. Yeah.
yeah. So for you, if I was going to ask this question, I'd be like, what is your favorite gaming character?
That's tough too. This is too many options. That's why that's too tough for
You got a
me.
bite? Get it?
Hmm. Well, one of them. Well, I would say currently my favorite is Jeff the Landshark from Marvel. So
Oh,
there's this there's there's this character named Jeff the Landshark. He's a Marvel character, and there's a game called Marvel Rivals that's like super popular right now.
yeah,
And free to play. So I booted up and I'm looking through the characters. Of course, you see like Iron Man and Spider Man. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm just like looking who's all playable. And then I'm
yeah.
like, what is this four-legged shark? And he was just the cutest thing in the world. And if you look at Jeff is won the hearts of many. Now that he has all this millions of people exposed to who he is, and he was kind of one of those like Marvel characters that came out less than 10 years ago, so he's like pretty new to the universe,
Mm.
and he wasn't popular at all, but he was like, but his everyone is like obsessed with him now.
Yeah, they love it. If I remember, I'm going to put a picture of Jeff the Landshark up here.
Yeah, he's the cutest thing in the world, and I've looked up his lore. I'm getting a custom plushie made. Like I'm all in on Jeff.
Oh, you're in. Okay.
I'm in. I'm president of the fan club. Yeah, Jeff the Landshark.
That wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. All right. Jeff the Landshark. So in Australia, they call Staffordshire Bull Terriers, like the Staffy I have, land sharks. Because they're
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah, just that. Anyway, that's not really, they don't,
That fell flat, but no, no
that,
kidding.
they're just dogs with like big mouths sort of thing.
Oh,
So
okay.
like, people just think, oh, they got like big mouths, and they'll chew anything apart. Like, there's no toy that my dog has had that has not been like ripped to shreds. She doesn't chew anything else, but just like bang, that thing's gone.
Like gone, dang.
Yeah. Like if that dog got a hold of your arm and was like, I'd be like, well, you're one-handed now. Good luck.
Sucks.
Not that she would. She'd just lick you in the face to death. What do you do to let off the steam?
That's a good question. I need to get back into it. I used to do monthly massages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 90 minutes. Just I had on the books, and it got expensive. And when I moved, I stopped because you're just building new routines. So
Yeah.
To get back into.
Are you saying Nike doesn't have someone just come in there and like go massage everyone?
No, I wish.
What kind of company are you working for?
I know. It's a nuisance. But so I used to do that. I game. I watch anime.
Yeah.
I box still. So
Are you still doing boxing?
not as much as I used to, but
Yeah.
I still box. Yeah, so I would say gaming, boxing, watching anime, just spending quality time with friends, and my girlfriend. But
Cool. And the missus,
yeah,
who I've yet to meet, and it's my bad because I haven't been down there. That's
Yeah.
on me.
sorry.
Life's been crazy. When we do get to chat, I'll tell you life's been crazy.
Yeah,
outside
yeah,
of this.
off cam. Yeah.
Yeah, off camera, yeah. It's been wild. But that's cool. The boxing stuff, like, is that where you get your exercise from, mainly? Because I know you had that home gym set up for a little bit.
Yeah, I still have a home gym. It's a little bit different now, but I invested in it less here just because of where I work. There's just
Yeah.
so many facilities and things.
Oh, okay. So you get to, like, do workouts at the
Mhm.
office or headquarters or whatever?
Yeah. We have 10-lane swimming pool, a rock climbing gym, 3 different workout rooms and therapy stuff. Like so,
Do you have a
it's-
skateboard park?
no skateboard. No.
Do you have a pickleball course?
Yes.
Oh,
Multiple.
I'm coming down there and I'm going to own you. Just like I
Mostly-
owned you in table tennis.
My mom told me to tell you hi and said, it's been a few years. Are you good? Are you good now? So she gave you a bit. She gave you long enough to get back. So,
I tell you what, I have not played table tennis since I picked up pickleball.
I would say that's going to be bad for you. Well, it's good for you that you've been playing more than me, but so I've only played pickleball once. But I think that you're going to have a disadvantage because that's more physical athleticism involved. So that
I'm
means
telling
that's-
you. You go out there, like, take a sabbatical for a month, 2 months, go do everything you can, and then come back to me, and I still put you to sleep.
Maybe I hope. I mean, because I feel like table tennis is an equalizer. You don't have to be that athletic, but like,
No.
but pickleball, you're moving. There's lateral movement. You're getting really, so I don't know.
I'm telling you, you know how I play ping pong with a lot of my spins and everything.
Yeah. Oh, you're tricky.
Oh, I'm so tricky, and I love it as well. It's like skateboarding in my brain, where like I'll spin the ball from the back court all the way around the net and go in at the other back end.
Okay. Yeah, I've only played once. My VP taught me how to play it, but I don't.
You should get into it more.
Yeah.
I might come down
I
and
did
visit
have a
you
good
there.
time. I did have a good time.
Yeah, it is pretty fun. What does your missus do? Does she play?
She's an engineer.
She's an engineer, of course.
Yeah.
She's living your dream.
Yeah, my dream. Yeah. So yeah, she's great, but she doesn't play games. She'll play other kind of games. Like her family is really big in the, like we hosted a game night like a couple weeks ago. So like board games, community games,
Oh yeah.
kind of stuff. So she's pretty.
Is her family in Portland?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so awesome for you.
Yeah, so it's been really cool, and
Yeah.
like they've been so welcoming. And,
How long you been together?
We did 1 year officially last month. Yeah.
Oh, fancy pants.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh
I
yeah,
see.
she's great. Her family's great. And,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay. This would be interesting, this question. If you could travel back in time, which period would you go to?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
I'm black. Like there's no.
I was like, well, so this is, when I was looking at these questions as I was going back, and I was like, I wonder if I would just go back and be like, I'm just going to go and like off someone. Like that would be like if you could go back and off David Duke before like he started like Ku Klux or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you could go and like off Hitler and be like, yeah, you know what? I feel good about myself. Like, sure, like might have changed a little bit, but whatever. Like,
I don't know. Yeah,
fair enough. So I actually think I would go back in time before humans were big, and so that I could see what the land was.
Prehistoric time.
Yeah, like just in like even as we're like getting stuff going, and just like, oh, this is what the Earth really looks like. You know what I mean? That would be interesting.
That flashed in my brain, but quickly went to the decision of no.
Yeah. You're like, no. I need to survive out here.
Yeah. It's hard enough. So no.
Yeah, it's hard to laugh at that, but I feel bad for that as well. God.
Yeah. Next question.
Don't make me cry on camera.
Yeah.
All right. When is the last time you were surprised by that question?
The last time I was surprised. That's a good one. When was the last time I was surprised? I don't know if it was the last time I was surprised, but definitely wasn't the last time. But one of the most memorable times I was surprised was one of my friends from high school invited me to be a groomsman.
Oh.
And I've known them 15 plus years, at this point.
Yeah.
And, we're cool. But I was still surprised. I don't know why I was surprised. It wasn't like, oh, we're not friends. Like, no, like, that's my boy, but I was still.
Is he one of the guys that's in, because you got that like text string of your friends that like are all
Yeah. It's like 11 of us, you
Yeah.
know, and we talk every single day and, we're tight, but I
Don't
think.
you guys do? Maybe you don't do it anymore. Wasn't there like a Freestyle Friday or something like that?
Oh, so it's funny. I brought that back.
Did you really?
But now we're actually recording like tracks. Before we would just like text our little freestyles or whatever, but now we're actually like recording and sending like videos.
Oh God.
And we're preparing for a cipher we're gonna do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we're gonna like record it and everything. So
that's so fun. You have to send me a copy so I can like watch it.
Yeah.
I won't post it.
But no, I will. It's going to be interesting because we've been dissing each other, and we've been like, just trying to find different ways of motivating each other to rap. Because I brought it up because we used to do freestyle Fridays. Like a couple of people, only 2 people probably did it.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of creative outlets outside of work, and I don't know the same about my friend group, and so I was like, yo, we should do this because I just frankly don't know what y'all are doing creatively outside of your day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And so they kind of took me up on the challenge, and so we've been like at least 5 to 6 of us have been doing it consistently.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so like of course we're no rappers and stuff, but some people you can see the progression, and because everybody has their own style, and and it's been fun dissing each other, especially amidst all the like Drake versus Kendrick.
Oh God!
So we got bit by those bugs.
Which side did you fall on?
Oh, I'm on the side of the consumer, so I think we all won because.
Oh God, that is too.
Well, no, I mean no. Well, Kendrick won. Like
yeah,
it wasn't,
Kendrick won.
Yeah, no, Kendrick won, but I'm saying like the fans won because it was just great music. Like Drake came out with great music. He just lost.
Yeah, I will say this. The rumor of him ghostwriting, like having ghostwriters, I can't swallow it. I feel like if you're out there doing it, you need to be. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if those allegations are still relevant or true. Because that's what Meek Mill was saying back then. So I don't know if they're true or not. But I agree with. So I agree with you to some degree. If it is true, then no, I can't hold you as like a lyricist. Because that's just not. You just automatically disqualified. But I don't listen to my hip hop like just thinking like, did he write that? Did he? You know what I mean?
Exactly right.
It's bigger than that. He's an amazing artist, regardless if he writes his stuff. Because there's so many other pieces that go into it. So like, I don't care. Like I think he does. I think Has he had help? I'm sure in the past.
Yeah.
But they all have help. It just depends on how do you classify help. Right?
Well,
like,
there's also different degrees of like inspiration versus someone doing it for you.
Right, ghostwriting, that's totally different. It's like, hey, pack, sign it, seal, deliver it. Here you go.
Yeah,
and then you just got to do it, which is doing it is still a big thing.
If you gave me the most perfect 16 bars and said you need to do it over this beat, I'd be like, well, or you die. I'd be like, well, just get me the coffin. I'm sliding into that thing.
Right. But it was, I just say, Kendrick won. But that didn't mean that Drake put out amazing music. And it was fun. It was almost after the beef was like over. That's when I went back to Drake's stuff. I was like, man, we missed this because Kendrick just stepped on it. Like it was so good. But so anyway,
I agree.
Freestyle Friday has been great.
It's still good. All right. Can you do a handstand?
I'm like, the ego in me, yeah. I mean, have I done one in years? No, but I'm positive I can do one.
You could do one, you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could not. Even though I've been working out and stuff, I also have like a bunch of like injuries, but it's one of those things where I see people doing a handstand, and it's so corny when you see someone walking on their hands somewhere. But if I could be at a party with my like kids and stuff like that, and I was the dad that could do a handstand,
you would do it.
I would do it because I'd be like, I'm entertaining you guys, but no.
Maybe try to do. Well, you might die. You're not a cool. I say, my uncle used to do when I remember this as a kid. He used to do push-ups, handstand push-ups. So he would do push-ups. He would do a handstand up against the wall,
and then do push-ups.
Then he would just do push-ups.
That is wild.
Yeah. So I remember that image in my head. I've never attempted that in any phase of my life.
There's never me going to do that. If you ever see me doing that, I'm taking steroids. I can tell you that now.
I think the physical challenge where I'm at now, well, not currently, but kind of, I've been thinking about doing backflips. I want to learn how to do that, but I'm way too scared to attempt because obviously it's scary and you could break your neck and things like that. But so I've been learning the science of how to do it, and that was actually what I was surprised by most recently was someone that told me how it actually works. I was like, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, all the kids in my family, so there's 8 of them, 6 nephews and my 2 kids, can all do front flips.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them, down to the 6-year-old, they can all do front flips.
Oh wow!
I think 6 of them can do back flips.
Wow!
Like out there doing backflip. I used to do backflips and front flips. But when I look back of thinking about it, I think I'd always do them like I would jump and then I would twist a little bit. So it's almost like a side flip.
So, the flipping period is impressive. I don't care. I don't care how you do it.
I just don't think that it, like you see people do them. Like, I remember seeing people do backflips off the bridges, and they'll just do that and they'll just land perfectly. And I was like, how do you time that? And I would be like, that's not possible. Like my brain wouldn't be able to do it. But I'd still walk past those guys, and then I'd go do a 360 flip over like a trash can bin on a hip, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's fine. No.
So, no, I've never been that gifted in those areas.
Yeah.
It just seems too scary. Like even on a trampoline, I won't do it. Like it's just scary.
Go to one of those things where they put you in the harness and try it.
Yeah, because I learned you just have to drive your knees.
Yeah.
Like that's actually what's turning you.
Yeah.
When you're out, I didn't know that. I thought you were legit having to force your body back. I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be like I can imagine myself being able to do it on a trampoline, but not on the ground.
Oh, definitely not on the ground. I can't do it. Like no.
Have you seen those people that do it where they're like the memes and they got like 5 people on the sides and they're like double bouncing, and the person goes boom and does like 10 flips. Like,
oh no, that would stress me out even more.
It's insane. I'm watching, and I'm like, how do you know when? Like, how do you know you're not just coming down on your neck? You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Too much. I'm getting too old for this shit.
That's how I feel. I'm 33.
Last place you traveled to?
Oklahoma
to visit your mum?
Yeah, for Christmas. So brought my girlfriend with me, and she got to meet my fam and my siblings, nieces and nephews, and everyone. So big milestone. Yeah.
Awesome. Was that the first? That's not the first time she's met your mum, right?
She met my mom just a month prior for Thanksgiving when my mom came here. So,
Oh, okay.
like she's met and spoken to my mom just over the phone and FaceTime and stuff, but in person was the first time in November. Yeah.
So you're saying me and your mum have a closer relationship than me and your girlfriend and your mum.
You met her more.
We are like this. All right. Can we speak on your mum's business just for a second? Because I just love the concept and everything. Can you just give a quick rundown of your mum's business? If I remember, I'll pop a logo and I'll put her link in the description to like.
No, we greatly appreciate that. So my mom owns a dessert and Southern comfort shop in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on Black Wall Street called Cobbler Mom. So essentially, she does like apple cobbler, blackberry cobbler, cherry cobbler, peach cobbler, all the classics. But we started off as a e-commerce shop shipping cobbler in a jar nationwide, and over the last 10 years, 2024 marked the 10-year anniversary of Cobbler Mom. And so she's in brick and mortar, her own shop today.
Yeah.
So cobblermom.com, that's the link. You can order a 4-pack at Cobbler and all kind of just different treats, and so it's great to share. Great, it's personalized size 8-ounce jars that you can eat in one gulp or save for later. And so it's been a fun ride.
How did your mum? If I remember correctly, your mum has always had a little entrepreneurial spirit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what made your mum land on Cobbler Mum and making cobblers?
Me.
You did?
Yeah.
Because you love the cobblers so much, and you're like,
no, I don't eat them at all. So the real story, like I said, she's always had a culinary gift for her entire life, and when she worked at Chrysler and other companies, she used to be known as like the cake lady or the pie lady, and like so she used to just sell that stuff on the side. It wasn't until 2013 when I graduated college, I don't know why I felt this. I mean, not why I felt this way, but I don't know why I thought I could help. But I was like, hey, you know what? I have money now. I can help you. I'm graduating, and you should turn this into a business. Like you should, like a real business, not just on the side kind of thing. And I was just kind of having a fresh college mindset. I was like, when's the last time someone my age, a 20-year-old, ordered a whole pie or a whole cake? Like we're always on the go. We're always doing something. And so I watched Shark Tank, and I saw that someone won, they had cookie dough in a jar, they got a deal. And then I saw someone else had cake in a jar, and they got a deal. And then I was like, you should do pie in a jar, cobbler in a jar. And she was like, nah, boy, I ain't doing this, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, I'm telling you. And, because again, the portability of it, and also I'm seeing people get signed deals on television for similar concepts. And so she took a leap of faith, and she tried it, and it started working, and people started buying it. And so she doesn't do the cobbler jar in her restaurant, her shop now. She just serves it more traditionally.
Yeah.
But that's how the e-commerce business got it started. So she figured out a way to sell, jars of
So she doesn't sell the jars so people can just take it home from there?
No, it's a whole nother like production kind of thing.
Oh wow, okay. And so is that her full-time gig now? And
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so awesome.
Yeah,
She must be so proud of you.
Oh yeah, she's my number one fan for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I can just imagine it's like raising a child where they are so independent, they go for what they want, but you have a great head on your shoulders, your manners, can finally grow a beard. So I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought that was her one loss on you.
I mean, I don't have a beard just yet, but I'm trying.
Yeah, you do have a little Kevin Durant little thing going on, like it's a little scruffy underneath more. Not that I can talk, I can't grow a beard, and mine looks like I look homeless as soon as I grow my beard. Anything, they just go, oh god, that guy. Just give him a couple of bucks and keep him moving. So she just must be so stoked. That must be also, to bring it back to you, you're making your mum proud, you're helping her out, you've done this, you must be stoked as well, you know what I mean?
100%, yeah. Like Yeah, I mean, I've told her like she's my superhero.
Yeah.
I it's funny. It actually kind of ties back to you in this way, where I just grew up single parent household, and she just making ends meet and doing what she got to do, working multiple jobs, working midnight to 8 so that she could be home when I wake up in the morning, and doing all this other kind of stuff, and so I definitely appreciate. I get my work ethic from her, like 100%. And even I remember when we launched Cobbler Mom, like in the opening for the first brick and mortar store, I was like just seeing her and my cousin and my aunt and my other aunt, and like they were working almost to like 3-4 a.m. plus, and I'm like I'm ready to go to bed, and like they're in the kitchen, like going crazy to make sure, and like all of them have that work ethic that I still don't even mine comes out in other ways, but but like, man, it was grueling hard work. And so anyway, I say that to say, I as you mentioned, like I don't have kids yet, and I have a little more flexibility in that area, but seeing my mom do all those things and taking care of me in those kind of ways, I am almost not as sympathetic at times when I see other parents who like they're your age, or like you and Jillian, or what, all the different people. I'm like, yo, y'all got two parents to make it. Y'all do well, and of course you got your own unique challenges. But I've seen this do it with a third of what you had, and a third of the time and the money that you had.
Yeah.
And so of course it's different, and it's not to diminish anybody's stories, but that I've had that.
Oh, I think I even think the same thing about myself and about my mum. I'm like, you're complaining because you got two parents, you got lovely family around, you live in a very safe neighborhood. Oh, your garage door was left open, and you're getting upset at your kid because they did something stupid, or like, oh, I'm too tired to go and do that with you. Where I would have been like, hey, my dad, and we are both very active parents with our kids. Don't let anyone think like we are super active. Yeah. But there's times where I think to myself like, oh God, you should have just got up yesterday and played with your kid to go throw that ball instead of drawing that picture for an extra 15 minutes or whatever it is. So,
and it doesn't make it harder. It doesn't make it parenting any. What am I trying to say? Like, I think parenting's still hard, so it's not fair to,
No, and once you become a parent, like if you ever choose to be or whatever, it's what you will face is different than what your mum faced. That doesn't make it any less challenging, because you'll be like, hey, maybe you and your wife you got two jobs, so then you've got less time. Like, you both have jobs. You both, oh dang, we both had to work overtime. Oh, the kids need to get to baseball, and then we have another kid that needs to get over here. Okay, how do we divide that up? Oh man, I'm stressed about work. Oh man, but I cooked dinner last night, but you've got to cook dinner tonight. Oh, but like, it's just a whole different thing. Now, any single parent who's able to do any of this, and my mum included, that you were able to do this stuff and keep your head on your shoulders at all, and it blows my mind, because I look back and I'm like, some of the things I got up to when I was a kid, how did you just move forward?
Right, yeah. But we're here and we're thankful, and so yeah, I mean, she's super proud of me, but I'm proud of her too.
Yeah. Your mum's awesome. All right, last two questions. I'll let you get out to your missus or get to sleeping or banging away on Marvel. Landshark, here we come.
I got another meeting. It's okay.
Oh, what do you got after this?
Dan, we'll talk more.
Oh, okay. We should just jump on one of these and just have a big yarn
Yeah,
that'll be great. All right, what are 3 things you're grateful for?
My health, my loved ones, and discernment.
What is discernment?
Yeah.
What's that?
Like, I mean, well, you mentioned it earlier, right? Around, I think at the top of the conversation, about how are you able to pick and choose, what you spend your time to. And so I'm just thankful that I'm very self-aware and unapologetic about how I choose what I do and what I don't do. And, even if it's something that not good for me, like, if I want a donut, I'm gonna eat the donut, but I'm not gonna waste time hemming and hawing if I want it or not. Like,
that's the thing, is I eat the donut him and her, and then I still eat the other donut. Well, I used to. I'm
not
a
gonna
little
waste
bit better.
time about the decision, So
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I am very intentional about how I spend
Is
my
your
time.
mum like that as well?
No,
No. Where do you think you get that from?
I don't know. I truly don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Like, yeah, I'm pretty incisive. Like, I will make a decision. There's usually the things that where I'm hemming out about are like, I've already done all the due diligence in the world, and I'm like, I having a really amazing choice with a really awesome choice, and it's not one is better
Better than the other.
It's just a different experience than
Yeah.
the other thing, right? And so that's when I have a really hard time making a decision.
Yeah.
But otherwise in life, and increasingly as I get older and just more as I grow and as I connect with mentors and learn other people, I'm like, yo, let's just go. The most expensive thing we have is time. So
Yeah.
let's just choose.
I think about it in summers. Like, I think I've got 40 summers left, and like, what am I meant to do with these 40 summers? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that's how I like sort of break it down. I'm a little older, a little grayer, midlife crisis coming along. So,
Yeah.
I was gonna, being someone that has discernment, and how does that transition into your relationship? Not so much like on like discussions between yourselves. I think that could be a whole nother like just set of discussion. But picking someone and then them picking you at the same time, how do you find that?
Elaborate just a little bit more.
Like, so where you're like, hey, I really like you, like, how do I, it's not that you're picky, but like you know what you want, and you know that that could sound very rapey if I said it like this, but you know what you want, and you're like, hey, I want to make this happen, but you go, fuck, I had it in my head, fuck it, I'll just cut that bit out, don't worry about it. That bit, I was just more thinking like, how do you like, so something okay, put it this way, so you have a job, 2 jobs, right? They're both, one's epic, one's awesome, and it's both 2 different like sort of lanes going down.
Yeah.
The emotions in that can almost come down to like financially and how that's sort of going to work out in that way. But when it comes down to a relationship, there's someone else's emotions that are involved in that's going on. So how does your discernment play into that? Does that make sense?
I'm going to respond, and then you let me know if it makes sense.
I don't even know if I made sense, to be honest. I should leave this in. Just realize everyone can realize something.
Well, what I've gotten from what you said is like, okay, well, as someone who knows what they want, but that's fine when there's an opportunity where it's something more objective, but how does that play in when there's another person's feelings and thoughts involved about what they want? How do you guys come together, essentially?
Yeah. Way better said than that. Again, idiot. Fucking idiot.
No, so yeah, I think that I've gotten better, probably too late at getting better at this, but I probably got better at that because by inviting other people to the conversation. That was one of I learned this in therapy, where a lot of things, or a lot of relationships, or a lot of, not even relationship, but sure, like just encounters or whatever, like romantic escapades, entanglements, or whatever, right? Like a lot of those, because I've dated a lot, but I haven't had a relationship in almost a decade. And so, but a lot of those dating opportunities, I was sometimes I was self-sabotaging, in the sense of, like, I would have the conversation and make decisions all in my head by myself. And I was thinking that I was doing it for the best, even if I was doing it for the best reasons. And even if I was right about it, I never invited that person to the conversation to let them make a choice. So like, oh, I don't want to waste her time. I don't want to do this. I might not have been wasting her time. She, like, let her choose that, So I started to lean in and say, like, hey, this is where I'm at in life right now.
Yeah.
And then let you choose if you want to stay, if you want to, versus hey, this is where I'm at right now. I'm out.
Yeah, yeah.
But we could have had a great time together, and then things would change, or things could change, or things maybe not, right? And so that was a big turning point for me of inviting people to the conversation so they can make a choice for their own destiny. But as long as you just speak up what your truth is up front.
I actually love that, and I had a thought because I've known about this like very close when we worked together, but like sporadically a little bit over the last couple of years. And I sometimes think that learning, when you said it's maybe a little too late, but sometimes that learning's happened at the right time. Do you get what I mean? Like maybe your missus right now gets the best of you because you had all those learning experiences to get to that, and now whether this takes on to be whatever, like she's met your mum, maybe you're pregnant. I don't know how you guys do it. Maybe, but I sometimes think of that stuff. Not that I believe in there's like fate or anything, but sometimes you learn all the stuff you learn for the thing to work at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's not. I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about like, can you truly waste someone's time or not, or is you can
definitely waste someone's time.
Oh yeah, and
I've got an hour and a half of yours right now, so I've definitely.
And I'm like, and I got the other side's argument, but I was like, no, you can still waste someone's. Like, yes, there are lessons in things, but you can still waste someone's time. So we won't go down that rabbit hole. So that was kind of the biggest learning I had on that topic, and I do agree with you. I think this is the best. Still a lot more to grow, but
and the thing, if you think you've ever stopped growing,
you lost.
You're lost. Like, no matter what you've done. Like, if you think there's no way anyone out there, if they think they're the best, then you're already done.
Yeah.
So
I'm grateful for the growth. I put that way.
Yeah. Okay. So when we were texting back and forth, I said I might change this question. And so I want your opinion on whether I should change this question. I'm going to ask you the question, but I'm going to tell you the question that I'll change it to.
Okay.
And then you tell me if I should change it or not.
Okay.
So the first question that is now, you have to wear a shirt with a slogan on it for a year. What does it say?
Mm-hmm.
The question that I might change it to is, what would you like your drawing to be? So tying it back into the whole drawn to your story thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I like to think that I'm going to do this drawing and be like, hey, this is just me bleeding into this. But then I've had some people that I can tell that are like, oh, that's the drawing. And then sometimes I can't find the drawing. Like, I can't find it, but I got to get it out. Like, sometimes it's better done than not done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I'm going to answer the first question, and I'm going to answer both questions.
Okay. You can answer both questions, but let me know what one you think that if I should change it out.
Yeah, I think that, I'll start backwards. I would have never, back when we were working together, I would have never called myself a creative by any means. I think everyone is creative.
I fully agree with that.
But I don't think everyone's a creative. And where I'm at now, we'll talk more. Like I feel better about like putting that joining the community of creatives.
Yep.
And what I've learned, I say, I don't think I should tell you how to do you so like whatever's speaking to you, like I think you should do that. Like I appreciate the question, but there's no way. I think that this is awesome. Like I was telling someone else about your podcast and I was like, at the end he draws an illustration about like whatever he took away from it and all this different stuff. So no, do whatever you want to do that it speaks to you. Just don't make me look ugly. I don't care.
Well, that's going to be hard, mate. That's going to be hard. Okay.
Yeah. Now you're lying. But no, now it's different if you're like, hey, do you want if you want me to give you some a direction or a topic to pick from the things that you learn, I'm happy to contribute on like, hey, I'm thinking of taking it this direction, A, B, C, or D, and I just pick one. Then cool, but I don't want to dictate anything.
No, I was more thinking that, and maybe I need to word the question differently. But I had a skateboarder on last season, and they're like, after this, we were just chatting for a little bit, and he's like, oh, I'd always wanted someone to draw me doing a crooked grind, which is a type of trick where they're grinding along something. And I was like, oh, yeah, send me a picture and I'd love to do that. Because, so I think I either need to word it differently, or that's the sort of thing. If you were like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to be a Street Fighter character. I've always wanted to be, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, I've always...
I don't have anything like that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But I understand the question better now. Yeah. I don't have anything, like, I've never thought about myself like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so, maybe you had like, oh, I want to do, I love this controller. I don't know.
No, I think it'd be dope. Like, literally whatever is on your heart that you took away from it, then, whatever. So, yeah, maybe me walking with a bunch of money bags into my future. I don't know. Speaking into existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be you holding the money bags and then me in the money bag saying, please, can I have $1?
Well, I get it. If that's what I got to do, put up with you. And one of my money bags, that's all right. Yeah. But if a t-shirt, I feel like I would have a couple different answers for that.
Okay.
I have a whole line of t-shirts.
Oh, hang on. Let's get in those. Do you know what comes up a lot before I forget?
What?
A lot of people just say, oh, I would just have Just Do It. And that it comes up a lot. I think that says a lot to what you were talking about earlier about how much this brand impacts people.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I accidentally said it earlier in this discussion, but I wasn't trying to even be corny. Like, it's such an action that
it really is
straight to the point. Like, no, just go.
Just do it. Just get it done. Just give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. What are your line of t-shirts?
Be intentional.
Be intentional.
Like, because I'm very intentional with my time. It kind of goes back to this discernment type of thing. But I think that lands better than discernment. Just like, your time is very...
People like me don't understand discernment. I'm like, did he just swear at me? Like, what the fuck?
Like, it kind of ties back into, like, things aren't going to happen on accident all the time. You only got so much time. So make the most of it. And if you're going to rest hard, you're going to rest hard. Like, don't try to be like, oh, on your phone. And just like, don't, like, lean into it. If you're going to have the donut, eat the fucking donut. Don't go crazy, but it's, so it doesn't mean don't be irresponsible with it when you're making stuff that's on the opposite side. But just like enjoy it and just do it, and with the reason of why you did it. Don't just do stuff without reason.
Yep.
And so I can guarantee if you saw me do something, hate it or love it, I did it for a reason.
Yep.
Right? And I think I just heard this yesterday. I went to a comedy show, and it's not, people have heard it, but it still just hit me in a positive way. Like, they said, don't dim your light. And
do you remember when I was at Nintendo and something had happened? I can remember. I'm not going to bother about sharing that experience. And I said to you, I don't know if you guys remember, I was like, I feel like that took my shine off. Like, that I had no more shine in my light. And there was a long time that I felt like I couldn't get it out of it. Like, it really just like knocked me down, and so I was like, nope. Sort of done.
Yeah. And it's real. And I think in the context that they brought it up last night was around, everyone doesn't understand your vision. And then sometimes, of course you got haters, right? But
I actually love haters.
Yeah. But like, even outside of them, you might just have people who just don't truly understand what you're trying to do. And so then they bring you down without the intention of trying to bring you down to their level. But it's like, oh, like, no, that's actually not what I'm trying to do. Right. So it's like, how do you don't have to be, you can be confident. You don't have to be arrogant. You know what I mean? Like, you can just be him or her or whatever. Right. You don't have to conform to someone else's story of what, because you know what I mean? It's like he actually used Buzz Lightyear as an example, in Toy Story, and he was like, when Buzz first showed up, Andy and the crew was like, oh, you're a toy. He's like, no, I'm a spaceman. And they're like, no, you're a toy. And sure, while that's also true, he's like, he knows who he is, and he's like, I'm gonna show you I can fly. And so it's kind of a silly example, but but it's like, no, you can be who you are, your vision and your purpose. And I think also it takes a level of vulnerability that you shouldn't share your vision and purpose with everybody, because people don't because you can go off of your path, and because not everybody's going to understand that, or that you might hear all the other things are distractions.
Yeah. I think I love haters because it's just so blatant, right? Like, oh,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
hate that, and you can like prove a hater wrong.
Yeah.
If someone's not understanding, and it's like, oh shit, I can't get across what I'm doing to this person. Like, even and there's people that I know that I adore, and they're like, I can see in their eyes, they're like, why are you doing this podcast, or why are you doing this? And it's always been that way for me because I'm like creative, I'm a little bit different. I don't think the right way, or like I don't think, you know what I mean? And that's almost more heartbreaking than someone who's just like, you're a piece of shit. I'm like, well, that's a really hard statement. Like, you're really committed to that statement. Like, that's
Right. But what you're describing, the former, that's the majority of the, not to say majority of the people, but that you're going to encounter that more than the haters.
oh, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
so that's like,
It's like the little chips away, like where they're
Yeah.
unintentional, but it's like, oh, I knocked you. Oh, there's a little bit that fell
yeah,
off. Oh,
like I
there's
remember, like I told someone in my family, I was like, yeah, I'm trying to retire by like 35, right? And then, but because they haven't experienced that in their lifetime, or
Oh,
they're,
yeah.
they're like, they can't fathom it. Oh, they just like laughed. And then I was like, I'm dead ass.
yeah, yeah,
You know, and so, and I didn't take it no kind of way, but that's just like an example, you know, like you can't always share what your vision is with everybody because
Yeah.
it's fragile, and sometimes, you know, maybe you don't even have to have thick skin, but it can, those insecurities can just creep into you, and those insecurities are just distractions.
yeah. I definitely have a lot of cracks where those things have seeped in, and it's like, because I aim for something that is so. Let me backtrack a little bit on this, even though we're a little bit off. But because I grew up in like podunk nowhere, Western Australia, in a very dysfunctional household, and then I ended up working for a company like Nintendo, right? There's no way if I said back then that I would have been like, I'm going to go work for Nintendo, I'm going to be living in America, and I'm going to be having this wild sort of lifestyle and traveling the world doing other stuff. No way that I could have thought that was even a possibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that happens, and then my brain goes, well, you've made that far, let's shoot even further. But what's really hard for me is that I was standing on the shoulders of a giant to feel big. How can I feel successful by doing it on my own? But then when other people sort of see that, they're like, yeah, because all the work's been done, kind of thing. All the like, who wants to hear you talk, and who wants to hear like your illustrations or that? Like, there's only a small amount of people that's going to want to see that. But when Nintendo probably first started, or like the cards or whatever it is, or any of these companies, people are probably like, really? Like, you're starting a shoe company? Like, you're like selling them out of the back of your car there, Phil? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. No, 100%. And I'll leave you with this. I do have to run into
Yeah.
thing, but like, this is a story that we had internally where, you know, Phil Knight, the creator of Nike, I heard the story. They were like, he invited H and a few others into a room. I think it was like a warehouse back in the 80s or something like that. And then Phil Knight, you know, he's like, what you think? And then he's like, well, looks like a good spot to sell shoes and shirts. And, you know, and then Phil was like, he paused, and then he got upset. He was like, well, if you think we're selling shoes and shirts here, we've already lost. And that just goes back to the point of like, we're selling inspiration.
Yeah.
Like this is what it just manifests. It just happens to be a shoe.
Through the shoe, yeah.
You know,
That's the vehicle that he's getting this message.
but right, but he took him. He was disappointed.
Yeah,
In that moment, he's like, "That's what you think we're doing here?"
yeah, that's wild.
You know, and so but like you said, he probably sounded crazy way back then when he created that. And a lot of these companies, you know, they probably all sound crazy or wild or like, you gotta watch that person. But
Yeah.
so
Jordan, once again, I love any time that I can get with your face, even
Same.
though I don't think that you're as attractive as you think you are. That's not true. You know that's not true. But I just enjoy the time, your insights into the world, your discernment, your
I love the callback.
Your wonderful smile, everything about you, I just vibe. I love that your success and knowing that you put the work in for your success of it's outside of the normal barrier of like just, oh, hey, I worked up this job and I just worked it and I was there long enough and I worked. That's great as well. Good for you for sticking that out. There's nothing hate on that. But I see what you do on the outside of that and like those little bits of extra that I said about before. Love it. And that has been, I'm so stoked to be able to have you on here. In a couple of weeks, 4 weeks or so like that, I'll have a drawing, I'll have the podcast out for you. And yeah.
Yeah, no, man. I appreciate you just as much. I miss you.
I miss you too.
Out to you and your family. And I can't wait to see Fletch and everyone. Just like see how big everyone's gotten. And
I think he has a tournament down in Portland.
Really? For what?
For baseball.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, we'll like whether we come down or like at least I can like come hang out.
Yeah. And I'll let you know next time I'm up that way. But no, man, I'm proud of you, and I know we don't talk often, but whenever we do, we go for hours, whether it's a podcast or on the phone or
I know.
So you're missed, man, and I'm proud of you and everything that you've been doing, and I'm drawn to your story.
You son of a bitch! What a good callback.
Yeah, but I love you.
I love you too, mate. Thank you very much.
No, the honor's mine. I'm super excited to see how this all comes out.
I'm nervous.
Very curious to see what you're gonna draw.
Yeah, I'm nervous about it.